We've made it to June. We are well within 100 days before our first college football game. It's time to start the pre-previews. We're not going to be in the full preview. William and I are here to do some pre-previews before we actually get into the heart of preview season.
Hey, Jake, before we do that, I started a little argument on Twitter, and I need to hear
you always start an argument on Twitter.
That's true. Not purposely a lot of times, but I need you, because you tried to already and I nixed it almost immediately, to convince me that the cold is not better than the heat, because I hate hot weather.
Okay. So are we how cold are we talking, like the coldest portion of the year versus the hottest portion of the year?
See, now you sound like my wife. My wife says, "You don't know what cold is. I'm from Vermont. You don't know what cold is." Blah, 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 blah. Which she's right.
Okay, kinda. So as us Midwesterners like to say, especially when it's super cold, it's not the cold, it's the wind that gets you, because there's nothing like when it's 10 degrees with 25-mile-an-hour winds just blistering through your jacket, and you just have to do everything in your power. Now, going to the playoff game in December when it was all of like 25 degrees outside and it was night and I was bundled up so much where I was actually hot and I wasn't able to wear gloves because my hands were like radiating heat. That was fun. I would do that again. But the middle of January, when I have to wear a coat with a sweatshirt and a beanie, and I am fully buttoned up, and I have to warm my truck up before I even go outside, like I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that. I like shoveling snow, but to a portion. I don't want to shovel snow every day. I don't want to do that. I couldn't live up in Alaska. I don't want to live up in Maine. I don't want to live up there.
Jake, I took my trash out today. I walked down my driveway and I came back inside with a pool of an actual pool in my underwear of sweat. You know, y'all say it's not the cold that gets you, it's the wind. We say it's not the heat.
Yeah, it's the humidity. Yeah, it's the humidity that gets you. Yeah, we're used to humidity here in the Midwest. Not as much as you guys. It gets super hot down there, but we get humid up here too. But I would take the heat and the humidity over my January, February's, where if I want to go outside somewhere, if I have to go somewhere, I have to mentally prepare myself that my face is going to hurt from just walking outside. Like if I have to go walk outside, my face is going to hurt.
Listen,
because it's so cold.
My ancestors were Swedish. My white, pasty white behind does not belong out in this South Carolina heat. So as soon as I step outside, I turn red. I start sweating, which I'm already sweating anyway, so it doesn't matter. You know, let's just get into football. No one wants to hear me talk about sweat.
Let's get into football. Big news this week, and while it's big news, nobody actually understands what's going on, but the NCAA came to a settlement, so there's going to be a lot of former players, not yourself, that are getting back pay, but plenty of other people.
That year. That's bullcrap.
Landon Tangwall posted out there. I told him to make sure that he gets his money because he's a former player that fits in there. It's like $2.8 billion for the athletes, which I wonder how that breaks down, because there's a lot of players, and I don't know how many sports it extends upon, or if it's football or basketball or who else.
I was a part, because I played a sport, of a lawsuit on the NCAA while I was at school. You know how much they sent me for a concussion lawsuit?
Probably like $75.
$5, Jake.
Yeah, $5.
I kid you not. I didn't even catch it. I just threw it away.
Side note, one time, this has been back in like 2015, Red Bull got sued because somebody sued them that Red Bull didn't actually give you wings. Remember that old saying, like Red Bull gives you wings? Yeah. So somebody filed a class action lawsuit, and Red Bull sent me $10 because all you had to do was say that one time you bought a Red Bull. So cool. I got a $10 check from Red Bull because some idiot claimed that Red Bull didn't actually give him wings. So
is he dumb? Because did it give him wings?
Definitely didn't, but he probably got more than $10. As the guy leading it, probably did. But anyways, so players are going to get $2.8 billion. It's probably not going to add up to a ton when maybe these guys will get $100, a couple $100. They'll probably get a couple $100, but most of these guys, they're just not going to make a difference for them. The big news out of all this is how NIL is going to push forward with a clearinghouse through Deloitte. And Ross Dellinger put out a couple photos, and I'm gonna just read you a couple parts of it. So it's through Deloitte. So basically, what is going to happen is that they're going to determine the payers association with the given institution. So they have to declare like who they are and why they want this. They have to understand whether the deal is being used and made with the purpose of using a student athlete's NIL for a payer's valid business purpose. So they can't just like give them $2 million and say,
Wait,
like, hey,
are you saying payer or player?
Payer for an NIL student athlete NIL for a payer, PAYOR, valid business purpose.
Okay.
Payne has to declare it to be a valid business purpose. You can't just give them $2 million because you want to give them $2 million.
First reaction, because this is me kind of hearing it for the first time. I saw this on Twitter, but I didn't read into it. I don't hate that. However, this is screaming lawsuit. This is screaming lawsuit. Yes. Is it good that you're putting a checks and balances in there? Yes. Is that checks and balance going to work? Absolutely not.
Here's another kicker part of this is they have to analyze whether a deal is above the calculated range of compensation paid to similar situated individuals for similar terms. So they're going to basically analyze, is this deal the actual value for it? Which to me, I think is kind of stupid because in the NFL, for instance, if somebody wants to go give somebody $100 million and they're not worth that, it doesn't matter. Like the NFL is not going to come in and say like,
they can.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't happen as often in the NFL. It happens a lot in the NBA where they'll come in and nix a trade. They'll nix a contract.
They'll nix the trade for sure. But if there's, if somebody's going to offer him $50 million and it's another guy, like it's clearly talking about players that are going to be involved. They're not going to be like, hey, you're paying him too much.
Well, in an NIL situation, you're saying that, so if they want to pay Cade Klubnik $100 million for Roback, shout out Roback. In the NFL, if he was already an NFL athlete, no one would blink an eye. If Roback wants to give him $100 million, Roback gives him $100 million. But now you're saying that Roback has to go through the clearinghouse, and the NCAA gets to determine how much Cade Klubnik's worth the Roback. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Because the Roback can say, we think that he should be worth $2 million this year. And the NCAA can come back and be like, Cade Klubnik's only worth $1 million, you guys. Or technically Deloitte can come back and be like, that's not actually his value. And it's like, okay, but to Roback, he might be worth that much. And
right.
This is where you get into all of these situations where what Deloitte says and what the NCAA says might not, it's their opinion. And I'm sure they're going to use some sort of analytics and, how they're doing it and blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't matter because to them, having, a face at Clemson or having, Cade Klubnik as their face might be worth more than that because it might be almost a future investment too, because, hey, we think Cade Klubnik's going to go to the NFL and then he's going to be, a Roback guy then too.
And you know what? We want to build a Roback site at Clemson. What's the best way to get publicity out? Let's go ahead and get this quarterback in there. Let's get a whole bunch of people buying the stuff, liking our product, and then boom, we're going to put a brick and mortar there. And now more people are going there every single day. Every time I go to Clemson, I go to the shops downtown and come up with something stupid because me and my dumb brain, if I see something with a tiger paw on it, I have to have it because that's just my dumb brain. These businesses are able to make that much money. It doesn't make any sense. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it more, Jake, this is just going to be another dumb thing that NCAA is trying to put training wheels on. You're attacking the wrong thing. No one cared about NIL, period. I know everybody thinks they do. No one cares about NIL. What people care about is the freaking transfer portal. When you have the transfer portal attached with NIL, that's what people have an issue with. So the NCAA is attacking this NIL issue. No one has an NIL issue. People have a transfer portal and a tampering issue, which allegedly tampering's happened all over the place, but no one wants to give any evidence. But the transfer portal issue is you have transfer portal windows that take place during the playoffs. You have transfer portal windows that take place right in the middle of spring ball. So it's like, what are we supposed to do? You look at Nico Iamaleava. He left Tennessee during a transfer portal window. So he just missed all of spring for UCLA. Now, that hurts himself and UCLA more than anything, but it also hurts Tennessee. You're screwing those things. But then also in the playoff, we saw it last year majorly. We had all these guys that had to determine if they're staying or going. while they're currently on a playoff roster. That's where our issues are. Number one, there shouldn't be 2 transfer portal windows. There should be one. And number two, it should be at one singular time, maybe a month, however, designate a month, but don't have so much other stuff going on. Right after the playoff would be perfect. You have February to freaking April. You have so much time. I don't understand why. There's 2 months of time that you could put the transfer portal into. Oh, well, you have to be to enroll in the school. You're not going to sit here and tell me that a school would not let a big time athlete come to their school and enroll because of this.
Yeah, there's ways to do it, and I've seen it happen before. You can basically have guys enter as you can do half semester courses. You can get enrolled in the second half of the semester. They will find a way. That's the thing. They will find a way to make it work. If you tell them this is what's happening, this is when you're doing it, they will find a way. And I mean, I'm honestly okay with them enrolling, starting doing May 1 to May 31. I understand you're going to miss spring practice, and maybe you just unenroll from the school knowing that you're not coming back. So be it. That it is what it is. If you know that's what you're going to do and you have no interest in going back because your head coach has left, it's going to happen. We saw it happen with the Wisconsin kid that ended up Miami. Wisconsin wouldn't enter his papers in the portal, so he just didn't enroll in spring classes and enrolled at Miami. Yeah. I mean, there's no way to avoid players just doing that. There's nothing to stop a player from just saying
we still live in a free country.
Yeah. Hey, I missed the portal window. And, I don't want to go back to the school I was going to in the fall. So I just don't enroll in fall classes and I enroll in a different school. You can make that sort of repercussions that way. You can find something to do. But the transfer portal, to me, I agree, is everything surrounding that is a bigger issue. And NIL became an issue with that, too, because you had guys basically in DM saying, hey, we'll give you however much money to come here. And
that's tampering. So again, it's not an NIL. NIL is the
no coach wants to admit to tampering because they're tampering.
Right. So shut up about it.
No one's gonna out another coach because they're doing it too. As much as every coach wants to think that they are squeaky clean, no program is squeaky clean with everything.
Except for my sweet Prince Dabo. You keep Dabo's name out your mouth.
Okay.
Dabo doesn't have social media, so he's not sliding in DMs.
He's got a burner. I guarantee he's got a burner. He's got a burner for sure.
His burner is not Shane Beamer.
He's probably got a burner because he's probably got some guilty pleasure TV shows and music. So he probably has to tweet about that stuff.
I can tell
he's probably got 12 followers.
His favorite music and his favorite TV. He loves to watch Christmas Vacation. Jake, sounds like you're a Dabo lover. How much do you like Michael Jackson? He's a big Michael Jackson fan.
My wife's a big Michael Jackson fan. I'm so on him.
Can we confirm or deny that Dabo Sweeney and Jake are related?
I don't think I look much like Dabo, so I don't think so. I also don't have the athletic gifts of playing at Alabama. Well, he didn't really play either. He didn't really play either. He was a walk-on.
Hey, he played a lot. He made some big-time catches his senior year.
Okay, let's jump into our ACC talk for today, our pre-preview of the ACC. So for this one, and we're going to do this for all the conferences, we're going to do a love and hate for each team in the conference because it's going to take us a little bit to get through since every conference now has 45 teams.
Explain what a pre-preview is. This is a summarization of these teams.
We're going to do an actual preview and break down the conference, talk about the contenders, talk about, your Heisman hopefuls, your studs, where teams are going to fall. We're going to actually break down the teams, what they've got, skill sets, strengths, weaknesses. But our pre-preview, we're going to do a love and hate because not every team is going to be mentioned in the preview. No offense to Stanford, but not every team is going to be mentioned in the preview.
We have to mention Stanford. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah. No offense to Stanford, but, plenty of teams in the actual preview are going to get glossed over because we know they're not going to be super relevant this year. We just know we can try to talk about them as much as we can, but, when you get into the Big Ten, UCLA, we can talk about Nico, but there's not much to go after that.
Yeah.
The Rutgers is going to be a 6 or 7 win team. Great. they're not going to be a contender. When we talk about the previews, we're talking about who are the contenders, who are the pretenders, who is going to be involved, who do we need to watch, what are the games that are going to be important this year, who is the big time stuff, what is the big time players, and we're going to dive into it. We're going to get into the teams. It's not like we're just going to spend an hour and go through all 14 teams. Last year we broke them down into 2 or 3 episodes for most of them. Same thing we're going to do this year. But pre-preview, it's more of a quick gloss over for every team. Everybody gets
Spark notes.
Yeah, everybody did Spark notes. Nobody actually read the books. This is a way of not reading the book. Nobody wants to go through. No offense, Phil Steele, but your 300-page preview is hard to read at one time. It takes a lot.
Yeah, I'm definitely not reading it throughout the day.
Yeah, but it takes a while, and remembering all the facts is hard. So the pre-preview. So Will and I did this was an early rank of our teams, and we combined our ranking 1 through 17. So we're going to start at the bottom of who combined we have in 17th place for the ACC this year. And we're going to work our way up to number 1. So combined in 17th place, we have Stanford.
What?
Shocking. That's why I said they're not going to be involved this year. So we're going to do something we love and something we hate about every team. So we're going to start off with Stanford. So there'll be a theme with some of these. Will and I have a handful of things. But for Stanford, one thing that I love, Andrew Luck is now involved in this program. When you talk about some of the biggest names in Stanford in the last 20, 25 years, I mean, Andrew Luck is the top guy.
Right.
Nearly won the Heisman twice. I mean, if it's not Andrew Luck, it's Christian McCaffrey. Those are the 1A and 1B and the biggest names come out of Stanford in the last 20 years.
But what you also get with Stanford or with Andrew Luck is he got into Stanford, difficult school to get into, and he excelled there. He was I'm pretty sure he graduated early. He had an architectural degree. Like, dude's just very, very, very smart. It's like having that guy involved in your program, just amazing.
Yeah, this is clearly the best thing that they could have done is having him involved. Obviously, his NFL career didn't go the way people thought. He was good. He just ended his career early and, went back to Stanford. And I think long-term it's going to be successful there. This is the one thing you and I both love about this. I think we kind of disagree what we hate. To me, it's basically everything else. I don't love the Frank Reich hire because he's only going to be there for 1 season. The intent is to not keep him around longer. They had guys transfer out. Like, this just probably isn't going to be a good team this year.
No, and I'm similar on that. I have no clear planet coach. So you have a guy that's coming on a rental. This isn't the NFL. You have to recruit. So Frank Reich, you're telling me Frank Reich is going to go into people's living room and say, "Hey, come on to Stanford. I'm not going to be here next year. I know you're committing to me, but I'm not going to be here next year. So you're actually not committing to me. You're committing to the school." Like, the only thing I can think of is Andrew Luck is having to do this recruiting. Andrew Luck is having to go into people's living rooms and pick up the phone and do all this recruiting because you have an entire staff that won't be there next year. So maybe Frank Reich is the guy that they put in as the figurehead, and he's just going to oversee the entire thing and give Andrew Luck a report. Hey, these are the coaches on this staff. This guy could be a good head coach. This guy's a good coordinator. These are the guys that I would really think about keeping on staff. These are the guys I don't think would really cut it. Maybe that's what they're going to do. It doesn't seem very clear from my opinion. So for longevity purposes, not only just here, but for longevity purposes, that's awful.
Yeah, it's not a clear direction, and it puts the next head coach at a disadvantage because you're going to struggle to get commitments here.
Right.
And the next guy is going to have to start with a clean slate, and there's not going to be much in the cupboard when he gets there. Like, it's going to be it's going to be bare cabinets. So we actually have a 3-way tie for the next one here. We've got Boston College, Cal, and Wake Forest tied at 15th because Stanford's low, and then there's one tier above, and we've got Boston College, Cal, and Wake Forest here. Let's start with Wake Forest. What do you love about Wake Forest?
I love the coaching staff. Jake Dickert, Rob Ezel, Scott Hazelton. Rob Ezel, I mean, he was at Alabama for a while, and then at South Alabama as the tight end coach and the offense coordinator. I think he's got a lot of potential to be a really good coach. Seems like Wake Forest is tapping into the NIL resources around there. Jake Dickert, I think he's one of those high rising coaches. you and I talked about this when he got hired. I was shocked he went to Wake Forest. Shocked, and I'm pretty sure you were too. With the name and the kind of the hype that was coming around him, to go to Wake Forest, that was a little strange. Scott Hazelton has been on some pretty good defenses. He was coaching at Wyoming while Jake. Oh my gosh,
Josh Allen
was at Wyoming while Josh Allen was there. So, and I'm pretty sure, what's the linebacker's name? Peyton. There's a linebacker that went in the NFL who's really, really good too. Anyway, very, very good head coach. Ezel and Hazelton are guys that are rising. Jake Dickert is also rising, but he's rising from a different tier. So I like that. But the defense is just going to be, I hate the defense. The defense is going to be very, very bad. I think Phil Steele had them projected to give up 30 points a game. They were giving up 33, 34 points a game last year. So and there's not much changes going on over there. So Scott Hazelton has his work cut out for him, but I think in the long term, that's going to be a good move.
Yeah, the one thing I love the hire Jake Dickert. I think he's going to be a good coach. I think you give him a couple years, give him 2 years, and he'll have Wake Forest. I don't want to say contending in the ACC, but I think they'll be competent. I think they will be winning 7-8 games a season.
And Dave Clawson had them competent before NIL. I mean, like once they got to NIL, I think he kind of was like, I can't do this.
Yeah. He had been coaching for so long, he wasn't able to adjust to the NIL. And I think Jake Dickert's going to be able to figure that out, and I think he's going to do well. I think you just have to make sure you give him the time. He's proven that he can coach, and he won at Washington State, which is not an easy program to win at. And I think this year is going to be rough, but give him a year. I think they'll show some signs at times. I don't know if they'll win games, but I think they'll be competitive in a game or two that people aren't expecting them to be. The one thing I hate, though, is that Robbie Ashford is likely their starting quarterback, and I am not a Robbie Ashford guy. I don't think that he's going to be the guy.
He's awful. Had he been on Dave Clawson's team with that little slow play RPO, I think he would have been better, because then he with his ability to run, that helps out. But I don't know what they're going to do offensively with Robbie Ashford here. They have a good running back.
Ashford's in his third program in 4 years. He's with Auburn and South Carolina. I'm not a fan of these journeyman quarterbacks that are jumping around year to year. I just don't think that they develop the best, and I don't see Wake Forest being successful on offense with Robbie Ashford leading the way.
No, I'm right there with you. Damon Claiborne was the running back I was thinking of, who I think highly of him, but everything else, no, I don't think highly of it.
Let's talk about Cal, because Cal's an interesting one, because if you had looked at them in November, we would have talked about them different than we are now.
I was going to make them a dark horse when they like to be in the ACC championship game in December.
But now we are talking about them basically being in last place.
Because how many running backs ended up leaving the program, Jake?
Like every single one of them.
I'm pretty sure at one point they didn't have a running back in the room, and I don't think. I mean, I'm not being exaggerative. I'm pretty sure they had 3 or 4 guys leave.
So
3 transfers. They had 3 transfers. No, 5. They had 5 running backs hit the portal. So I'm not making this up.
So the one thing about Cal, I will say, is so they brought in LJ Johnson from SMU. And LJ Johnson was not a bad running back at Cal. I think he was actually able to hold his own. And I believe he rushed for just under 1,000 yards. So you at least have a running back with some decent experience. He's not Jaden Ott, but that's the one thing I do like, is that it's not just a guy that has had 14 career carries, losing all that talent and experience out of the running back room. You at least bring in a guy who can be a serviceable running back. So I am happy for that. The thing that I don't like here is it's so hard to replace your quarterback and running back that you had at such a high level. You Mendoza and Ott, were a great tandem, and now you are starting afresh with probably Devin Brown, who wasn't able to really stay healthy at Ohio State. You really saw him a little bit. Now he's expected to basically be a starting quarterback, or you're probably looking at their true freshman quarterback, who I cannot remember his name, but I know it's super long.
Jerron Kiowe, Sakapole Tele.
Yeah, that one. I know it's Polynesian. I couldn't quite remember it.
Yeah, and
but you can't replace
it, so
you can't replace Mendoza and Ott for Brown/Polynesian quarterback and LJ Johnson. Like that's
right.
Not an equal trade.
And I disagree with you a little bit from the quarterback room. I wasn't the biggest Fernando Mendoza lover. I think he did enough at times. I don't think he was anything to write home about. I think the hype with him going to Indiana is a little overblown. And I think Devin Brown isn't much different from him. But if the Devin Brown project fails, you have a 4 or 5 star quarterback in Jerron Kiowe, Sagapolete. I'm sorry, I'm trying my best. So if you have depth, you have options. So at least they have that. Quarterback is really, really tough. It's shocking to me that a guy like Jaden Ott would leave, A, 3 days before saying he's not going to leave, but B, after seeing what you have in that quarterback room. And I hate the running back room. Yes, LJ Johnson is a competent running back, but you lost everything else. So your depth is just going to be awful. So LJ Johnson's going to have to be a workhorse. And that doesn't work. That doesn't work in big time games when a guy gets injured, guy needs to be spelled. You essentially will know what the team's going to do when he's on or off the field. So that's too bad. I think Cal could even – if Cal and Wake are interchangeable for me. I think I have Cal last, and I think you have Wake or second to last, and you have Wake second to last. Yeah.
Yeah, likely they'll end up tying. The one when you look at Cal's schedule, like there's not a lot where you look at this and go, hey, they could win that. They have Stanford, should beat Stanford. But when you look at the rest of the schedule, I don't know what Oregon State's going to be. Minnesota, they're probably going to lose to. San Diego State could be a tough one there too. Boston College, they might win. Boston College is the next one we're going to talk about. It really depends. Do they beat Boston College and Stanford? Because they could be ahead at that point. Do they go 1-1 or do they go 0-2?
Jake, we need to make a bet on those 3 teams.
I don't want to.
We should make a bet.
Those are 3 terrible schools.
The amount of sicko picks you had last year on our underdog picks, this should be right up your alley. We got to do a sicko bet.
I do love some sicko bets. The last one we had here in our trio was Boston College. So I had Cal at 14, Boston College at 15, Wake at 16. You had Wake at 14, Boston College at 15, and Cal at 16. So our 14 and 16s were flipped, and we both had Boston College 15.
Yeah, nice little.
So Boston College, they were actually competitive in most games last year. Like in almost every game, they were at least involved. And a new year with Bill O'Brien as their head coach. Now, they did lose Thomas Castellanos towards the end of the year. He entered the transfer portal. What I hate is I don't think they're going to be in many games at all this year. I really just am not a fan. The Boston College team this year, they lost a lot. And I don't see the vision here for Bill O'Brien. I think Boston College is arguably – I think you could argue that Boston College might be the toughest job in college football. And I don't think it's that far out because recruiting, you have to convince players to go to Boston. And there's not a lot of talent up in New England. So even keeping home like the best guys, and if there is anybody talented in Massachusetts or Connecticut, that means that they're probably being called upon by some other Northeastern or Midwest schools. And it makes sense. Nobody really is a Boston College football fan. There's just not many out there.
Yeah, what? I've never met a Boston College football fan.
I think there's a Boston College podcast that follows me. But other than that, there's not a lot out there.
They just unfollowed you.
They probably did just unfollow me. They have 6 returning starters on offense. They brought in Dylan Longeran. Yeah, the Alabama guy. He's never really played. He's played in 2 games and thrown for 23 yards. There's not much experience. I mean, they have Grayson James who filled in, who played at FIU. I'm not really feeling an FIU quarterback or an Alabama guy who left because he couldn't play.
Right. And Thomas Castellanos was perfect for that team because of his running ability. If everything broke down, which it often did, he was able to save them in a lot of situations. And without I don't know how long a run can run, but I can tell you he's not a runner like Castellanos is a runner.
And the offensive playmakers, they don't really jump off the screen at you. They're not looking like somebody's going to be a playmaker. There's just not a lot here to be excited about at Boston College.
Yeah, my love and hate, Jake. I love Bill O'Brien. I love what he can do. The fact that he brings a little bit of positivity and some good coaching pedigree. I mean, he's coached Tom Brady for God's sakes. He coached at Penn State. Like he's got the ability. He's coached at Alabama. Everything else just sucks right now. I don't think he's in his second year. So there's time. Is it second or third year?
He's in his second year.
Okay, yeah, he's in his second year, so there's time. He is the former greatest offensive coordinator in Ohio State history. Never lost a game with him at offensive coordinator.
He is undefeated.
Yep. So I like him being there. I want to see what he can do. I think if anybody's going to be able to recruit that area, it's someone that's from that area. And sure enough, he's from that area. He's also pretty passionate about the area. But just everything else about it stinks right now. Not the year. It's not going to be a good year. I don't see them being a dark horse. I don't see them competing. I see them as a bottom cellar dweller.
So the next team we have on here might surprise some people because their name is thrown around a lot. We've got North Carolina here next. And I think we can both agree that them down here, it shouldn't really be a total surprise just because of what has been going around the program. You had them at 13. I had them at 12. So we both had them right in the same spot. The one thing I do like is Gio Lopez is expected to start. They've got, why am I blanking on the other quarterback? He got injured in the very first game. Max Johnson. They have Max Johnson. He got injured in the very first game last year. Gio Lopez just gives you so much more to work with there. So much more. He's a dual threat guy. He rushed over 400 yards last year at South Alabama. He threw for 2,500 yards. Gio Lopez could be a very exciting piece on this offense. My problem, what I hate, is that the football is probably not going to be the biggest topic this season.
Right.
And I really am concerned that the off-the-field stories are going to overshadow the football team and creep into that locker room.
They already have. These guys have
they apparently had a meeting with Bill Belichick, and it's all kept light and it's funny and whatever, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. When you start losing, if you lose games, it's going to start impacting. It's all fine and dandy when it's June and you're on vacation and guys, you're in summer workouts and whatnot. It's different when you lose that first or second game, and now there needs to be some accountability somewhere.
Winning cures all, losing swells it all. I mean, it's just going to make it so much worse when they start losing. Win. I did say win. I'm very confident that they're not going to be a good ball team this year.
Oh, I think there's a chance that there's some excitement. I just don't think that they're going to be able to win many of these big games. And how is Bill Belichick going to react in college? Because while it's the same game, it's played very differently.
Yeah. Is that your two?
Yes, that's my two.
So I love the experience on the coaching staff. You have Freddie Kitchens as your offensive coordinator, a guy who's coached in the NFL for a long time. He's been a head coach in the NFL, despite his inability to coach for the Cleveland Browns, which no one can.
I would almost say that's not even a negative. He didn't coach for the Cleveland. Bill Belichick didn't coach well for the Cleveland Browns.
Right, exactly. So he's a hell of an offensive coordinator, though, and he actually had a really good offense for the Cleveland Browns before he was promoted to head coach. Who's their defense? And Steve Belichick, which I know, it's not narcissism, nepotism, but no, Steve Belichick actually had a pretty good year last year as Washington's defense coordinator, Washington University. They had a pretty good defense. I think they were a top 30 defense last year, total defense. So, and that's a down year. They were having a down year with, missing all the offensive firepower that they had. So they have a good coaching staff, and their special teams coach is also a NFL coach, former NFL coach, Mike Pfeiffer. So he's got dudes in there, and he's got former players walking around the facility all the time. So there's a lot of hype around the program. I do love that. But with all those cameras paired with what's going on behind Bill Belichick's closed doors, it's just causing a lot of negative publicity. And negative publicity might not be that big of a deal in the NFL, but in college, some parents and some kids aren't going to look past that when they want to commit to that program. Some kids aren't going to stick around when they think this is a joke. This is a freaking circus. Let me get out of here. I mean, look at Bo Atkinson. He goes to Penn State. I think it was Penn State. Or did he go to Ohio State? He goes to Ohio State because he's like, I'm not sticking around here. So very good defensive end. So, and then their linebacker left too. He's the one that went to Penn State.
Yeah, so he went to Penn State.
Just it's not going to be good if he can't win this year, and I really don't think he can. Omarion Hampton is gone. I don't know much about the backup running back, the starting running back this year, and Davion Gowles. I don't believe in any of the wide receivers. I don't believe in the offensive line. The defense wasn't even that good last year. I think it's going to be a rough year. And I'm not talking about dogs. I think rough, ROUGH, for the Tar Heels.
Yeah, I'm not sold, and I think when the losing starts, because they start the season with TCU, and Josh Hoover throws that ball around. How are they going to handle that? They play at UCF. If somehow they weather the storm through those first 4 games, then they get Clemson, who is going to absolutely smack them. So, games against Clemson, Syracuse, I mean, they do luck out where they get Cal, Stanford.
They have an easier schedule, yeah.
They get Wake Forest. I mean, you get Wake Forest, Stanford, and Cal. So you've got a chance to win 3 games right there. And you might make a bowl game just because you beat Charlotte, Richmond, and find a way to win 1 more game on that schedule.
Right.
But I am not sitting here pounding my fist for North Carolina to even be in consideration for the top of this.
Yeah.
Next, we've got Virginia Tech. We've got Virginia Tech here at our 12 spot. We had them at 12 and 11, respectively. So right here in between the two. What do you love about Virginia Tech?
I love Kyron Drones. I love him being healthy. I love him being available this year. All the hype last year, we had him as a dark horse playoff contender, a team that can compete in the ACC. I'm pretty sure you had them in the ACC championship. If I remember correctly, maybe you didn't. Maybe you backed off.
I had them up there. I don't know if I quite had them as in the ACC championship, but I 100% had them right up there.
Yeah, they lose Bashan Tuttle, they lose Jalen Lane, they lose what's the big time receiver? He comes back. Who's the big time receiver with Kyron Drones that we were the duo that we were hyped about? Regardless, with Kyron Drones being healthy, there's the ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan would say. So I think they have a really good chance to be good as long as he's on the field. DeQuan Felton is his name, and he's back. However, what I hate about this team is Kyron Drones' health, because the team goes with and without Kyron Drones. If he's not on the football field, they're going to suck. If he's on the football field, they will be in every single game they play in. You go back to Miami. Miami wins on a controversial game-winning play where they should have won, but Kyron Drones plays the whole game. So
Felton is gone.
Felton is gone. He is gone. Okay. So that makes me even lower on this team. So I'm not high on this team. He's lost all of his targets. But if Kyron Jones is out there and he's healthy, he's a hell of a quarterback.
I'm right there with you. Kyron Jones, when he's healthy, is an explosive playmaker. He reminds me of like a Tyrod Taylor, a couple of these explosive quarterbacks that have come through Virginia Tech over the last 10 or 15 years. What I don't like is when you lose Tuttle. He was a really good running back for them last year. He was.
Tootin'. I said Tuttle, but it's Tootin'.
Yeah, it's Tootin'. Yeah, it's Tootin'. He was consistent. That was a big thing. He was a consistent running back, and he got the yards when you needed it. But you don't have that. There's not many proven guys on this offense to make plays, and you can't even rely on your quarterback to stay healthy. So, to me, Virginia Tech is once again a very boomer bust, but I'm leaning way more bust this year than I am.
Which means they're going to be good this year.
Which means they're going to win. They're going to win 9 games.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Who we got next?
Next one we've got here is Virginia.
And this is because of you, not because of me.
I have Virginia down at 13, and you have Virginia at 8. This is the first one we are like very opposites on this.
But you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll say why I don't like Virginia, or why I like and why I don't like Virginia. So I love that they won 5 games after expecting to be one of the worst teams in the ACC last year. They were supposed to be towards the bottom. Now they return 15 starters, and they avoid Clemson, Miami, Georgia Tech, and SMU. The problem I have with Virginia is the one reason why I'm not super high is basically the whole offense is full of transfers, and it's kind of pieced together. You've got Chandler Morris going in there. You've got 2 transfer wide receivers going in there. You've got there's another transfer wide receiver who was from last year. So you've got a lot of pieced together offense. I usually don't like when you're piecing together an offense like this. I think you can plug and play some guys. I don't think you can plug and play a whole offense.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, what I love about Virginia is the addition of Chandler Morris, quarterback. He's a runner. And when you have a team that struggles to make plays, when you have lackluster playmakers, having the guy that stirs the drink at quarterback is the best case scenario. If you have a guy that can run, he makes players look a lot better than they actually are. He's a coach's son. Chad Morris is his dad. He has ties to Tony Elliott. They already have a relationship before he even came here. So I like that addition. What I don't like is that Tony Elliott is coaching for his job. And when you're coaching for your job, you might start making decisions that you probably wouldn't have made had you had a more cool seat that your tuchus is in. So if he starts making some panic decisions, if he falters in any way towards what he wants to do with that program, I think it could take a bad turn. I have Virginia potentially winning 9 games this year, Jake. And I know that's crazy, and that's why we're so far off on each other. But I have them as a fringe 10-win team. And I think they can beat Coastal. I think they can beat NC State. I think they can beat William & Mary. I think they can beat Stanford. I think they can beat Florida State. Louisville's one that you can toss in the air. Washington State, I think they can beat them. North Carolina, California, Wake, Duke, Virginia Tech. They really don't have a difficult schedule. So I think they have a really good chance to be the team that's in the hunt come late in November.
I agree. The schedule does them some favors because as much as they can win all those games, they can also lose a lot of those.
That's true too. That's happening, and we'll find out quick.
And like I said, the offense scares me. I mean, Chandler Morris, he's played a lot of football, played a lot of big football games, and I like a quarterback that's experienced. What I don't like is the fact that he basically has to rebuild relationships with all of these guys.
Yeah.
You don't have just, a guy that you can rely on that you've had for your team, 2, 3, 4 years. You don't have that guy that's ready to go there, tons of experience with.
Yeah.
Next one we've got on here, we got Florida State. Florida State I had at 10, and you also had at 10. So we both feel very similar about this Florida State team. What I love about this Florida State team is that DJU is not the quarterback this year. DJU is not on this team.
Strays.
DJU is not on this team anymore. I don't know why he felt the need to declare for the draft. I don't even know where he is. I don't know if he's UFO. Wait, are you serious right now?
Yeah, he was an undrafted free agent, but he's with the Chargers.
Has he been cut yet? Have they seen him play?
Let's see. You keep talking. I'll look it up.
All right. The one thing I hate is the wide receiver, and there's a lot to be desired here. They've got Squirrel White. They've got Deuce Robinson, Squirrel White came from Tennessee. Great. He played with Nico last year. Deuce Robinson, former 5-star, tight end, wide receiver fringe, came over from USC. These guys left not because they were so talented and so explosive that they were lighting up the roster. Squirrel White was basically the third wide receiver at Tennessee, and the 2 guys in front of him, one was Brew McCoy, and I'm blanking on the other guy. He wasn't getting a lot of catches, wasn't doing a lot when he had the ball. When he left, Tennessee fans weren't even that mad that Squirrel White left. Deuce Robinson was at USC for 2 years and just couldn't break out. And I don't think Florida State's going to be the spot that they suddenly just show up. They're not going to be Keon Coleman and just show up and light the world on fire. Keon Coleman showed flashes at Michigan State. Wasn't like he was a nobody. Keon Coleman was good at Michigan State. Went to Florida State because he wanted to play at a higher level. I don't see it with these two guys.
Yeah. Well, DJU is still with the Chargers. Something I love about them is I feel like they're embracing that they're not going to be a good passing team. I think they're embracing the fact that their wide receiver room is lackluster, and they're really leaning into that. They got Thomas Castellanos at quarterback. They got Gus Malzahn as the offense coordinator. What does he like to do? He likes to run his quarterbacks. They have what are the two? Jalen.
They got Roydell Williams back.
Roydell Williams and Jalen Lucas, who I thought Jalen Lucas was going to have a breakout year last year. He ended up getting injured and having a tough time. But Roydell Williams and Jalen Lucas is a great 1-2 punch. So you add that with Thomas Castellanos and all the option stuff that they're going to do. I think that's good. You got a big wide receiver in Deuce Robinson who can block. He's a 6'6", 220 guy. I think he was originally recruited as a tight end at USC. But you've got some bigger dudes. I think they're just going to lean into running the football. But what I hate is that their defense sucked. Oh, and by the way, if they want to improve their rushing attack, they're doing exactly what they need to do, because last year they were ranked 128th in the country in rush defense out of 136 schools. Terrible. And their defense was 86th in the country. Now, the defense did have some bright spots. They would keep them in games here and there. But if the defense didn't show up, it was over. So the defense has got to improve. I don't think they did anything enough in the portal or in high school recruiting to get better. So I think the defense is going to suck again this year, which is why I have them so low.
The one pickup I did like was they brought in James Williams from Nebraska. He had 7 sacks last year.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be turning a ton of heads. I mean, he's not going to suddenly go out and have 14 sacks this year. I think he'll be disruptive, but you're going to need help elsewhere. He just can't be the only guy.
Right.
Next one we got here, NC State. We got 9.5. I had them at 8 and you had them at 11.5. So I feel more confident in NC State than you did. The reason that I feel more confident in NC State than you did, because they've got 4 offensive linemen back plus CJ Bailey. And CJ Bailey was a true freshman last year. Played pretty well as a true freshman. Another year under his belt. I love that he's got an offensive line back, because you just have that cohesive, that sturdy offensive line to be able to build that rapport with. I love when you've got tons of experience with guys playing next to each other. I used to love the stat when you could see how many games an offensive line had played together. Usually when it's 2 seasons, and you can see these guys have played together 1,100 snaps or whatever they would go through.
Right.
So I love that they've got that. I think there's enough on offense with the playmakers to do something, but I think CJ Bailey makes a little bit of a step here. The thing that I hate is Dave Doran's going to lose 4 games, because he basically does every year. He's in like his 15th year at NC State, and he's only lost less than 4 games once, and he lost 3 games. So how do I sit here and think that Dave Doran is going to suddenly just shock the world? I think they'll do fine, but I don't think that this is anything where we're going to look at NC State at the end of the year being like, how did we not see that they were going to be this good?
Right. Well, with NC State, I'm the same as you. I love that they have CJ Bailey back. I'm very high on CJ Bailey. I think he's got a lot of potential. And the fact that he has an offensive line that's tenured right in front of him, that's the best thing to do for a young quarterback that's trying to get his legs under him. However, what I hate is 2 things. Number one, they canceled the Textile Bowl, so now we don't play Clemson. They don't play each other every year, and I hate NC State, so that stinks. I hate not getting to play them. But what I really don't like is that last year they were boo-boo. I mean, they were in a shootout with Western Carolina. It says they won by 2 scores. That game, I'm pretty sure it was tied up in the 4th quarter. They pulled away extremely late. They got boat raced by Tennessee. They only beat Louisiana Tech by 10. They got boat raced by Clemson, scored a lot of garbage time touchdowns to make it look better. They almost lost to Northern Illinois. They lose to Wake Forest. I mean, obviously they lost to Syracuse. Syracuse is a good team. Came down to the wire against a bad California team. They did blow out Stanford. They lost to Duke, lost to Georgia Tech by 1, which is a good game. So this is when CJ Bailey kind of got his legs up under him. And then they lose to East Carolina in the bowl game, which I'm not poo-pooing on East Carolina. I think they're a really good team. They're just not good. They're not a good football team. The core of the team is just average. They're very meh. They're very vanilla. I wish Clemson was playing them this year. I would have loved to have played them this year, but I'm not high on NC State at all this year. I don't think they're going to take a big step.
NC State's going to go 7-5. I'm going to tell you that right now.
I wouldn't be shocked if they go 6-7 again.
I think they're going to go 7-5 in the regular season. I think they'll win a game they shouldn't, and then they'll lose at least one that they should. They shouldn't lose that game as well. Next one we've got up here in our 8 spot here, we've got Duke, who actually we combined to have at 9 because we both had them at 9. But the way the rankings work, they are our 8th team. Don't ask me how numbers work. I don't try to know. Duke, the one thing I love, they brought in Darian Mensah. I mean, you lose Malik Murphy. You kind of asked him to leave, and you bring in Darian Mensah. I think Darian Mensah is going to be a better quarterback than Malik Murphy, but that's a big I think. I don't know.
Well, Malik Murphy coming into the program, I thought he had all the potential in the world. I mean, with him at Texas, like, wow, Texas is so deep. They have Quinn Ewers, they have Arch Manning, they have Malik Murphy. Malik Murphy's got a cannon, blah, 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 blah. And then he was average at Duke. So, yeah.
He was fine. Darian Mensah, I think he has the talent to be the best quarterback in the conference. Maybe not this year, but I think by the time he's done, I think he could be the best quarterback, like leave as the best quarterback in the ACC his final year. The problem is the wide receiver room this year, he's not going to be the best quarterback because his wide receiver room doesn't have a lot of talent. There's going to struggle to create separation. They're going to have to use Darian Mensah's legs a lot.
Yeah.
Manny Diaz is a defensive coach, so I don't know how many points they're going to have to score, but I don't think offense is going to be the key this year.
No, and I'm almost in step with you completely. To not match you 100%, because I love that they got Darian Mensah as well. But Manny Diaz's ability to have a good defense, that's what I love. I think he's, like you said, he always has a defense that is respectable. Even at a place like Duke, they beat out Clemson for a couple of guys last year, so that defense is going to be good. I would say legit. I think legit is too complimentary. They're going to be a good defense. Wide receiver room is garbage. So you get Darian Mensah, but you don't do anything for him. So I don't think anybody listening or myself can name any of their wide receivers.
No, I have it up in front of me, but Andrew Anthony has been playing football. He's played in 25 games and has 328 yards. If I'm reading,
that's their best receiver.
Am I reading that right?
You're reading that correct.
Samir Hagans, who has 6 starts and has 1,000 yards, and Quayshawn Brown, who has 13 games and 445 yards. None of those stats jump off the board. Maybe somebody will surprise, but not the whole receiving room.
Yeah, so I think they're going to be a very average team this year. I think they're going to compete in some games. Darian Mensah is going to keep them in some games. The defense is going to keep them in some games. They're not going to be an easy out. I'll say that. But they're not, I don't think they're going to upset anybody. They're not winning in any shootouts.
No, and I mean, you get Illinois as a non-conference game, which is not an easy year to get Illinois.
Right.
I think NC State's going to be a tough one. We haven't even talked about Syracuse yet, so they're coming. Georgia Tech, Clemson, I think that's at least 4 losses. I mean, I think you can count on probably Syracuse, Illinois, Georgia Tech, Clemson. I feel like that's probably 4 losses. For sure.
Clemson needs to avenge what happened last time they played. So this is
it's also at Clemson, so you got that going for you.
Yeah.
Next team on the list here, Syracuse. Actually, we've got Syracuse at 7. We've actually both had Syracuse at 7. What do you love about Syracuse?
Well, it's not on my list, but Fran Brown.
But if everybody loves Fran Brown,
I love Fran Brown. But I love the addition of – oh, wow, we're similar. I love Stephen Jelly being paired with OC Jeff Nixon. Jeff Nixon, he's in his second year at Syracuse. He had Kyle McCord last year. Kyle McCord had obviously his best year as a quarterback. I mean, he was decent at Ohio State, but he was amazing at Syracuse. Steve Angeli, I think, has similar throwing ability as Kyle McCord. I don't think they're that much different in terms of the arm. What Steve Angeli can do that Kyle McCord could not is run. So I really, really love that addition and being paired with that offense coordinator. What I hate is their schedule. I think this is a very talented football team. I think this team is going to win a lot of games. However, they have the 5th toughest schedule in the country. It is going to be difficult. I mean, they play Tennessee, which looked like it was going to be a difficult game, but now with losing their quarterback, I don't know how we view Tennessee now with a new quarterback. But they play Clemson. Let's see. They
play Duke. They go on the road at SMU. They play Pitt. They've got Georgia Tech on the road. They've got Miami on the road. They've got Notre Dame on the road. That's a lot of tough games on the road.
They're going to be
Tennessee's in Atlanta, which is basically a home game for Tennessee because Tennessee.
They go to SMU as well. So sorry.
At Clemson, at SMU, at Georgia Tech, at Miami, at Notre Dame, Tennessee, in Atlanta. Those are 6 incredibly tough games.
They're going to have to steal a few.
I mean,
we
luckily
can't count
Tennessee
Miami as a away game because it's a neutral site.
It's neutral site. It's neutral site. But you've got 6 games away from your house that are going to be incredibly tough, and you've got to find a way to steal at least 2 of them. And I think they can. I think they can.
I think they will.
I like Steve Angeli. That's one thing. I like Steve Angeli. I think him coming over from Notre Dame isn't a great thing. We saw what he did in the playoffs when he had to come in for Riley Leonard for a drive against Penn State, and he drove them down the field and put them in. I think
he changed that game. Situation. Yes, he changed that entire game. I don't. If he comes in, I don't think they win that game. If he doesn't come in, I don't think they win that game.
I'm not sure if they do either. At wide receiver, they brought in Jonte Cook, who we'll see what happens there, but I think Fran Brown's going to get him in shape there.
You also might have to live with Fran Brown to stay out of trouble. He'll probably be living at Fran Brown's house.
He might be. Justice Ross Simmons was at Colorado State, had over 1,000 yards last year. There's guys here. Dan Villari was a tight end last year, was a pretty solid tight end for them. The offensive line scares me a little bit. They lost a bunch off the offensive line. But what really scares me here when you talk about Syracuse is they lost Tibor Pena. I think if you would put Tibor Pena in that, along with a Jonte Cook, along with a Justice Ross Simmons, like you're talking about lighting up the sky once again. You just don't know what you're going to get out of Jonte Cook with even on or off the field. Some of these G5 guys, when you put them up to Power 4, they don't always translate. You knew what you were getting with Tibor Pena, though.
Right.
Next one here we got is Pitt. We only got 6 more to go. We're going to cruise through. We'll cruise through a couple of these here soon. Pitt, for me, the one thing that I loved was Eli Holstein was great before the concussion. He looked great. Pitt was undefeated at one point. I think they were 7-0, and then they lit up Syracuse, and he got concussed in that game, and it all went downhill for Pitt. It all went downhill. They weren't the same once they got to November. What I hate is that Pitt is always a middle of the road team. It is hard to get excited about Pitt. They have had at least 3 losses every year since 1981, but they have reached a bowl in 8 of the last 10 years. So you know they're going to probably win 6 games, but they're not going to win more than 9.
Right. Well, and then to go back to Eli Holstein, because he's also part of the reason I love him. I also love Damon Reed. I think he's one of the best running backs in the country, not just in the ACC. Very good receiving threat, very good runner, very durable. They're both healthy. But Eli Holstein, wasn't it 5 games in a row that he threw 300 yards and 3 touchdowns last year?
He was on a roll there for a minute.
And, I mean, so I love that about him. He's very fiery, plays with a lot of grit. I love that dude. What I hate, I put in jest, get a freaking stadium. You're one of the most historic freaking schools in college football. Get a stadium. But to kind of going around what you said, their defense is just very, very bad. They have a very, very bad defense that just gets torn apart. So many people can just pass on them. They had a good rush defense last year, but everybody can just pass on them. So,
except Kyle McCord, he threw 5 interceptions against them.
And Clemson couldn't throw the ball against him as well for some reason in the second half. But if that defense can be more consistent and be more well-rounded, I think this Pitt team can actually be pretty decent.
I think there's a chance, but I agree. I think they're going to be on the outside looking in. 5 here, we've got Miami. So I had Miami at 4. You had Miami at 5. We are not thinking Miami is going to be in the ACC championship. What I love about Miami is I think they've got a decent experience in the running back room. You got Jordan Lyle and Mark Fletcher. You're bringing in Carson Beck, who we don't really know what he's going to be able to do, especially after that elbow surgery. Who knows how he's going to be able to throw the ball. So having an experienced running back room and 2 guys that played a good amount behind Damian Martinez. Mark Fletcher and Jordan Lyle both got plenty of carries last year. So I think having guys with experience like that is going to help them. The one thing I hate is that you're relying on Mario Cristobal to be the coach. And we've seen him make foolish mistakes year after year and skate by and not really sure how he wins some games. And then he blows it, when he needs to have it most. So I just struggle to trust Mario Cristobal.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I love, excuse me. Lost my shot. I love the returning of last year's production. Yes, you lose Xavier Restrepo. Yes, you lose Damian Martinez. Yes, you lose Cam Ward. The rest of the guys is pretty much the same core. So you get a lot of the same guys back. So I think that's pretty good. However, Carson Beck, hate him. Hate him as a quarterback. Don't know him as a person, so I'm not going to say I hate him. Hate him as a quarterback. I was very, very, very loud about that last year. Ruffled a lot of feathers, and I'm back on that train. However, he was a much better quarterback when he wasn't dating one of the Cavanagh twins. He allegedly cheated on the Cavanagh twin, so he is no longer dating her for some reason. So, but all jokes aside, do not like Carson Beck. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. I think he's a very average, maybe above average quarterback. And when you're not backed up by your defense like you have at Georgia, you're going to be exposed a little bit. And just like at Georgia last year, the Miami receiving core this year, I think, is pretty bad. There's not any names that jump off the list. I'm not excited about any of those guys on that list. So you're surrounding Carson Beck with nothing. And he came from a team that had the most drops in the NCAA last year. So we'll see what happens.
Well, hopefully Miami isn't also leading the nation in drops, because that would be incredibly shocking if he goes from one team. But, I mean, Josiah Trader, CJ Daniels, Malachi Toney, I mean, maybe they'll be good. It's hard to look at.
They will be good.
But they're not going to be.
Arroyo. They don't have Xavier Restrepo. They will be good.
They will be good, but they're not going to be great.
Yeah, good, period.
Number 4, here's where we start actually jumping into the contenders here. So I've got Louisville at 5. You have them at 2. So you have Louisville basically in the conference championship. I've got them at 5, puts them at 3.5 here. For Louisville, one thing I love is that I think Miller Moss can basically be this year's Tyler Shuck. He's coming from a very similar, kind of situation where he was forced out, wasn't going to really be the starter, to a spot where he can really take over. The one thing I hate is that the schedule is very backloaded, and the fact that you don't have a Ja'Cory Brooks on this team. Ja'Cory Brooks was kind of the safe haven for Tyler Shuck last year. Ja'Cory Brooks made plays when you needed it to. I don't necessarily know if there's the Ja'Cory Brooks on this team, and the very end of the schedule to me just is not conducive for them to be able to make a run here, to the ACC championship. With having Clemson and SMU in back-to-back weeks, Kentucky, we'll see what happens there with Vince Morrow leaving. But your 2 biggest games are basically in the last 2 weeks. So they could be sitting there at, 5-0, especially after they go Eastern Kentucky, James Madison, Bowling Green, Pitt, Virginia, get a bye week, and then go Miami on the road, neutral site technically on the road in Miami. Boston College, Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech could be iffy. Cal, and then you go Clemson on a Friday night, and then at SMU. And I'm just not – I don't believe that they'll win both those games. And I think if you lose both of them, it's going to knock you out of the ACC championship.
But if those are the only 2 games you lost –
no, you might have a chance. Have a chance.
So, I mean, last year they had a 3-win team and Clemson win it all. So it can happen. The ACC is wild. But the ACC, unlike past years, the ACC has a lot of talent this year, especially at the quarterback position. And Miller Moss, I've been high on for a while. You've been laughing at me a lot, Jake. I know we've disagreed on my Miller Moss stock that I've bought, but I really, really like Miller Moss, and I really love that he's playing in the ACC and that he's got Isaac Brown as a running back with him. Isaac Brown is one of the best running backs in the country. This low key, the ACC has some of the best running backs in the country, and Damon Reed, Isaac Brown. What's the cat's name from Georgia Tech? He'd slip in my mind. Justice Hayes.
Yeah.
Just some phenomenal running backs. So those 2 are just some guys on there. And like Jeff Brom knows how to coach quarterbacks. I mean, I know Tyler Shuck was already good and had a lot of hype, but he was coming off some injuries. He had to get, remodeled a little bit, remolded. Jeff Brom does a good job with those guys. So he had Purdue winning football games. So let's give Jeff Brom some flowers. What I hate is that they have 10 transfers on defense. Not all of them are starting, projected to start, but they have 10 transfers on the defense. The defense was formidable last year. They had one of the best rush defenses in the country. They struggled in the passing game, but you lose 2 big guys on the defensive end, Gillette, and I forget the other guy's name. So if that defense can gel and do enough to keep Miller Moss and crew in games, Dakari Collins can do enough at wide receiver. Isaac Brown can do enough at running back. I think they're going to be a good enough team.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if they get there. They seem to kind of have a way of getting an easier schedule year in and year out. I don't know how it happens, but I mean, what was it? 2 years ago, they made the ACC championship. Last year, they, were a very formidable team. I think they went 9 games last year.
Yeah.
But moving on, now we're in the top 3. Our second one here is actually tied because we have them tied at number 3. I have SMU at 2. You have them at 4. You have Georgia Tech at 3. I have Georgia Tech at 3. SMU, the one thing that I love is that Kevin Jennings' ability to adapt on the run. The one thing that I hate is Kevin Jennings' ability to adapt on the run. I think Kevin Jennings has the ceiling of being a Heisman contender.
But I think if you put 2 plays next to each other from last year, you put the Clemson game when he breaks a sack and goes for like 30 yards, to keep the drive alive. That's what you love about him. What you hate about him is against Penn State when he rolls out of the pocket, breaks a sack, and then throws a pick right to the freaking Penn State defender when he's got a dude wide open in the end zone. So if you want to symbolize what Jake just said, those 2 plays, just put them right up in your face.
And the other one against Penn State, when it's like all he needed to do was fall forward 1 yard on 4th and 1.
Oh, yeah.
He sees the tight end in the end zone and he overthrows him. He took the play where he thought he was going to make the bigger play rather than taking the guarantee, which I understand. If you hit that, you score a touchdown. But he's also got the ability to make guys miss. He's got a good arm. Kevin Jennings has the ceiling of being a Heisman contender, but he's at the floor of getting benched.
Yeah.
So there is just a wide range in there. I think Rhett Lashley is a really good coach. I think he knows how to get the most out of his guys. I think he recruits well. SMU has a lot of money. They are showing that they have a lot of money. I think this could be a really good year for Kevin Jennings. I think it could be a really bad year for Kevin Jennings.
Yeah, and I'm similar to you. What I love the fact that Kevin Jennings is back with a year under his belt. I love that the boosters. This is what I actually put down, but the boosters' ability and willingness to pay. SMU has billionaires as boosters, not just millionaires. Billionaires. Let me say that again for people who don't understand. Billion with a B. Billion.
If your net worth isn't in the millions, you're not even allowed to go there.
Right. So it's a big time money school, and they're willing to pay. Why they still have a freaking terrible stadium is beyond me. I think Gerald Ford Stadium looks nice, but it should be a lot nicer for how much money they have. But what I hate is they have no more beginner's luck. There's a target on their back now. They were seconds away from going into overtime, potentially winning the ACC championship. They were 4 turnovers from competing with Penn State if Kevin Jennings doesn't pee down his leg. So, and they were a BYU game away from being undefeated. So they were a really good team that nobody was expecting to make that jump from G5 to P4 that fast and that easily. However, they don't have that anymore. They're not beginners anymore. And people know to look for them. I mean, yes, it happened towards the end of the year, but the target is going to be on their back the entire year. And I think that could put some extra pressure that they're not used to. So we'll see how Kevin Jennings and Rhett Lashley adapt to that. I love Rhett Lashley as a coach, by the way.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see because the schedule isn't super difficult to start. East Texas A&M, Baylor, Missouri State, actually, weird enough, at TCU. Then they get a bye.
At Missouri State?
Yeah, they're at Missouri State. That's a weird
What the heck?
Yeah, you figured that they'd be able to afford to bring Missouri State to them, but whatever.
They must owe them money.
Somebody owes somebody a favor.
That's
but
right.
They've got Clemson on the schedule, they've got Miami on the schedule, they've got Louisville on the schedule. Like this, there isn't just a schedule full of cakewalks.
Right.
That game at Clemson, that's where we'll really determine how good are they. Because other than that, I mean TCU could be a tough one too. They go to TCU. Josh Hoover's going to throw the ball.
Baylor, Sawyer Robertson, I think his name is. What's his name?
Yeah, Sawyer Robertson. The other one here at the top, we've got the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. I think the reason why we both love them is they've got a lot of guys returning. So on offense, they've got 7. On defense, they've got 7 returning. a lot of those are key players. You got Jamal Haynes. You've got Haynes King, because Jamal Haynes King. Everybody loves to just make that joke because it just flows together. But when you look at it, it's more than just a quarterback and a running back. Yeah. Malik Rutherford's back. They've got a bunch of guys on the offensive line that are back. They've got a bunch of guys on defense that are back, a bunch on the defensive line that are back. Brent Key just seems to be building a winner. Towards the end of the year, they really started to get rolling there. They beat Miami. They beat NC State. They took Georgia to 8 billion overtimes that, you really thought that they probably should have beat Georgia. They should have beat Georgia. They were up big on Georgia, and Georgia came back.
Yep.
But it just felt like that something is building here, and they've got a really good program going.
Yeah.
What I don't like here, though, is the schedule's going to be much tougher than I think people will expect. You look at this, and Colorado, we don't really know what Colorado's going to look like, but you go on the road the first week. You have Clemson in week 3. You've got Virginia Tech in the middle of the year, Syracuse at NC State, and then Pitt, and then you end with Georgia. I think there might be 3 losses here, but I think one's going to be out of conference, which might give them the chance to get in the conference championship.
Yeah, no, it's going to be, it is a more difficult, like you're saying, than people expect schedule, especially, having to go to Boston College in November is tough just because how cold it's going to be.
Off a bye, you never know what you're going to be like. You don't know what the conditions are going to be at that point. It's not going to be any sort of gimme. And if Boston College has nothing to lose, they're either going to roll over or they're just going to somehow be way in that game.
Yeah. No, I'll say what I love is Haynes King. I keep Haynes Green. Haynes King, his leadership and grit. The dude was playing injured, not hurt, injured in a lot of games last year. He was beat up. You look at him in the Georgia game, he's got more green on his jersey than he does Georgia Tech colors. He had to miss some time against, I'm forgetting who off the top of my head, but the dude just has a lot of grit. And you want to, especially as an offensive line, you want to get behind a guy like that who's just going to go out there and just tough it out. I hate that they lost Eric Singleton. I do like Malik Rutherford. I like what's the senior guy, the older guy that's in the room, Eric Rivers. I like Eric Rivers. I love Neckroll, the old linebacker. I didn't realize he was a sophomore last year, but Kyle Efford, he is the Haynes King of the defense. That dude just plays with so much effort. You go back to the Florida State game, I'm pretty sure he had like 10 tackles. He was all over the place, and he comes back. He gets hurt in that Georgia game, I believe, late, and that was probably what helped out Georgia a little bit. The Miami game, he also got hurt, but they ended up winning that game. So they have, like you said, Brent Key's got that program moving in the right direction. They're winning on the recruiting trail. They're beating out some big programs on the recruiting trail. Now, can they start stacking wins? Can they have a season like they did last year? Can they overcome some of those small losses, right? Can they beat Georgia when they have them on the ropes? Can they beat some of these teams that they lost to when they have them on the ropes? That's what I want to see them do, and that's keeping me from having them as my second favorite to the third.
And then number 1, I think this was inevitable. I'll go first so I can let you have your run here. I love Clemson's receiving room. I think it's going to be one of the top 5 in the country. There's just so much talent in this receiving room that it's hard not to look and go, Cade Klubnik's got his guys. He's got Antonio Williams, Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore. Pick your poison on any of these games because any of the 3 of them can tear you up. Cade Klubnik's going to have plenty of passing yards with that. And Clemson should just air it out all season long. Because
Tyler Brown was a number 1 wide receiver. If he doesn't get hurt last year, he's in that mix too. So you have 4 guys who have proven it.
What I don't like, though, is the reason why I think they need to air it out is there's a lack of a feature running back here. Phil Maffa was that dude last year. He was a beast. But the reason he was a beast is there wasn't a ton behind him that when he was injured, there was a little bit more of a lack of running game. And there's a reason why the true freshman might be the starting running back this year. Gideon Davidson, a guy you went and reviewed his tape for, that he might be the starting running back as a true freshman. And a true freshman running back, I think there's plenty of good reason to start a true freshman running back. We've seen plenty of guys, but at the same time, there's also things that true freshman running backs just don't get with pass protection. And if you're airing it out a lot and you're having a true freshman in there, Cade Klubnik is going to take a blindside hit at one point. It's going to happen. He's going to fumble it. Hopefully it's in a game that's not important. But if it's in a game like it's LSU, if it's in a game like it's SMU, is it going to impact? But I don't think it's going to be enough to stop them from being the number one team. When we're talking about the lack of a feature running back, we're really nitpicking at the team.
Right. And you know what helps a running back kind of get under his legs a little bit is when no one can freaking stack the box because you have 6 guys who are legitimate threats in the wide receiver room. When you have a tight end that no one's heard about yet, Christian Bentancur, who I think is really going to step up and be that dude this year, redshirt freshman guy. I think he's going to leapfrog a couple of dudes, and Olsen Pat Henry and Josh Sapp. No offense to them. I just think Bentancur's got so much talent. So I think he's going to be a guy that no one's expecting to see. Anyway, this is just another receiving threat that you're going to see. Gideon Davidson he's projected to be the starter. Adam Randall is a convert from wide receiver. He adds a little wrinkle to that offense that you won't get out of a lot of places because he's got the receiving ability. And then plus they had a couple guys who got some playing time last year. Probably won't see them too much unless there's some injuries. What I love about this team is the returning production. Cade Klubnik's played for 3 years. Antonio Williams has played for 3 years. Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore started a lot of games last year. Tyler Brown had started a lot of games his freshman year. Cole Turner has started a lot of games. Tristan Smith comes in from the portal, who's a guy who's started a lot of games at the Division III level or the FCS level, but big guy. You can't coach 6'5", right? Offensive line. The entire offensive line has played together last year. They lost one dude on the offense line. That's Marcus Tate. Not scoffing at that, but the dude behind him had started a lot of games in Colin Sadler and Harris Sewell. The defense, TJ Parker, Will Help, Peter Woods, DeMonte Capehart, Sammy Brown, Wade Woodaz. All these guys are household names that people that are in the college football world have heard of. That's returning production. They're the number 2 team in the country in returning production. I think number 1 is what's the number 1 team off the top of my head? I can pull it up in a minute. They got a lot of guys coming back.
They've got 8 on offense, 8 starters back on offense, 9 back on defense is what it's listed as,
which is absurd.
I mean, you're bringing back 17 guys. You're missing 5 guys from your starters, and usually when you're missing only 5, and the amount of rotation guys have at this point, only needing 2 starters back on, missing 2 starters back on defense, you basically have the whole team back.
Number 1 is Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is the number 1 in returning production. So I like my odds.
It's because Diego Pavia has been playing for 7 years.
That's right. So what I hate is, I was going to say running back, but I think everybody's going to say that. So I want to say the hype. Paul freaking Feinbaum is projecting Clemson to be a playoff team and a national contender. So the guy who has hated Clemson, you can set your clock to death, taxes. It's going to be 12 o'clock at least once, and Paul Feinbaum is going to hate on the Clemson Tigers. That is not happening this year, which means there's too much rat poison. We got guys that are too plugged into this NIL world where they have to, market themselves. We got too much rat poison going around. So if anything's going to get them, these guys might get their heads too big and go in and get popped against someone like SMU, someone against like Syracuse, like Duke, like Louisville. Clemson doesn't have an easy schedule. I think they have the 26th hardest schedule in the country. So it's not easy by any means. They should run through it, but it's not going to be easy. So too much rat poison for my Tigers, but there's a reason they're number 1. I think they're going to be really, really good. I try to remove bias, people. But even Jake, the Ohio State Clemson hater, has them at number 1. So you have to remind that. Now, Jake will not be a Clemson hater after September 20th when he comes down for the Syracuse game. So Tiger fans.
What if I just wear Fran Brown stuff?
You should. I think you would get more love than you would in Ohio State gear.
That's probably true. That is probably true. So, well, that does it for our pre-preview of the ACC. We'll be back again next week, do another pre-preview. And soon enough, we'll be doing full-on previews of the conferences.
We got a couple fun interviews coming up. Got a couple guys in the docket that I think the people are going to enjoy. I'm not going to drop any names, but I think we have 2 people that we just got to wrap up a couple of things, get some confirmation on dates, and we could have some fun interviews coming for the people.
Maybe not as cool as Lance Leipold, but if you didn't get a chance to go listen to Lance Leipold interview, you have to go do that.
Yes, you absolutely have to. Salt of the earth guy, wonderful human. And then just building something at Kansas that hasn't been there in almost 20 years. So, yeah, go check that one out.
He DM'd me to have a nice summer afterwards. How can you not like the guy?
Yeah, and then I send a thank you email, and they're like, dude, whatever you need, you let us know, and we want to come back. I mean, just great people. Anybody that invites me to a stadium, they're way too hospitable, right? You don't bring this cat to a stadium.
Wait till we accidentally show up at him. Not accidentally. Well, he doesn't realize we're going to show up to a Kansas game.
Hey, Kansas State, I had circled. I'm trying to convince my wife. Got to move around some financials to get over there, but I'm trying to make it happen, Jake. November 1st. I'm trying to make it happen.
Donate to us, and we'll fund our flights out to Kansas.
That would be. I'm not going to. If you want to, that would be a wonderful Christmas present for the Walk-On Redshirts. Is to fund our trip to Kansas. We'll make it worth your while. I promise. I'll go out there and eat a bunch of Kansas barbecue. I'll throw up. I'll do whatever you need me to do.
Maybe we'll start a Venmo GoFundMe version.
There we go. So, send the boys, send the walk-ons to Kansas.
Yeah, send the walk-ons to Kansas. With that being said, that is everything for this week. We'll be back again next week.